Hi, my name is Dr. Mitchell Colver, and I'm an instructor for the School of Teacher Education and Leadership here at Utah State University. I'm here to tell you a little bit about a pre-conference workshop that I'm going to be providing at the Teaching for Learning conference here in March. The conference runs from March 21st and March 22nd, but on the day before that, March 20th, I'm going to be talking about how to use an autonomy-supportive approach to curriculum and instruction. And because that's an interesting title, a little bit of an intense title, we wanted to provide this little trailer for the pre-conference workshop so that people could understand what they'd be signing up for. So my experience in entering into education was I used to be trained as a therapist, and I used to work in higher education as what was called a retention specialist. And on the side, I would sometimes teach for a psychology department. And one semester, a professor, 6 days before the term started, was unable to teach the class. And they said, who can we get to teach this educational psychology class? And they called me up and said, are you able to do this? Well, I didn't know anything about the topic, but I said, sure. I got the text, I read it over the weekend, the whole thing, took note cards and wrote all the interesting things that I could write from the book down. And it was this Bob Slavin's Educational Psychology. And then I prepared the class and started to get ready to teach. And I suddenly realized, wait a minute, if I'm going to teach a class about how to effectively teach classes, I need to use those same principles that are in this book, these principles of effective learning, that will help my students to have a good experience. It'd be hypocritical of me to not apply and practice what I preach. And so I thought, well, how am I going to do that? Because some of these things are pretty intense, and it would require me to just build out the course a little bit more effectively. And what can I do? Well, at that time, I was providing training, over 200 hours of training, to a bunch of peer mentors and student employees, student tutors, and other units. And we would use adventure programming to provide that training. And adventure programming was interesting because it gets people excited for whatever you're about to learn, because you're also going to learn that concept through some kind of activity. And I thought, well, if I take those principles of effective leadership and adventure programming, and I apply them to this educational psychology book, and mishmash them together, surely I can create a situation for my students, an environment for my students, where they'd really have a great experience and come through that experience and feel like it was one of the most positive educational experiences that they had had. And that's exactly what had happened. By the end of the semester, by bringing all these activities and this learning science to bear on that course, the students' evaluations were glowing. And I was really pleased to get those and really honored to get those. Students were saying it was the best class they'd ever had, the best educational experience they'd ever had, that everyone on campus needed to take this class because it was life-changing. And I thought, whoa, there's something here, there's something interesting going on here. A few years later, I decided to pursue a PhD in education. And in that program, I learned about this idea of what's called self-determination theory, research by DC and Ryan, and 40 years of research about what motivates humans. And this book by Marlene Gagne, she talks about that in a work environment, but these same principles applied back, and suddenly I had a very quick way to explain why the educational psychology class was so effective for the students, and it was self-determination theory. And basically, the idea behind this is that there are these three basic human needs that everyone has, whether you're in a classroom or in a home or in the workplace. Every person is fueled by the need for autonomy, which is basically making choices in their environment, the need for competence, which is getting better at life day by day and understanding how we've been successful and maybe how we've not been as successful, and then being able to share the stories of success and failure with others through these deep, meaningful relationships. We call that relatedness. And that these three circles helped me to understand why that course that I had designed was so effective, because so much of what was being presented in the educational psychology book and the adventure programming that I had come to love was captured in these three circles in this theory of self-determination. And then it was supported by 40 years of research that says that these are the things that basically human beings need in order to thrive. And so we've taken that content and we've designed out a full-day workshop from 9 to 3:30 with a lunch on using autonomy-supportive approach to curriculum and instruction, applying these theories of self-determination to things like course planning, curriculum selection, syllabus design, instructional techniques, classroom management, and also to grading, so that those who attend not only get exposed to this great theory of what helps people to learn and to thrive in educational settings, but also how can they take those theories into practice and actually apply them in very practical ways. So we're hoping that you'll join us on that day, on March 20th, the pre-conference workshop from 9 to 3:30. The link that is available to register will be sent out with this video in an email, and we're looking forward to see you there. Thanks so much.